Hey everybody, it's Mark here. I am coming at you several months, I think a couple of months since the last time I uploaded a video to this channel. I wanted to share a bit about where I've been and what's going to happen with this channel going forward. The reason I haven't been making videos for the last couple of months has been because I was in the hospital. I had to have a cardiac surgery. I had to have heart surgery. And I have been spending most of my time, that happened on April 2nd, and I have been recovering from that since then, still recovering, but finally have the energy and the hygiene to get back in front of the camera and talk to you guys about what's been going on and what's coming up next here on this channel. I'll just share a little bit about the heart surgery that I had. If you're friends with me on Facebook, or if you find me on Facebook, you can read more there. I've shared more or less what's been going on with folks on my Facebook page. I found out last year that I have 2 aneurysms, one of which was on the part of my aorta that is closest to the heart. So I had to have that replaced with some synthetic material that will not rupture, because that was the risk that if I carried on without surgery, I would lose a lot of blood to internal bleeding if it ruptured, and risk death or some kind of permanent disability. And so once I understood what was happening, I accepted the recommendation to have heart surgery to repair that. And I'll have to do the same later in the year for aneurysm in the abdominal section of my aorta. Your aorta kind of runs all the way through your core. So that's where I've been. And there's it's a heavy experience physically. It takes a toll on the body. I think a lot of people struggle psychologically with it. A lot of people struggle with fears and anxieties with something like that. I was very grateful that the practices I've been doing for many years now, meditation, mindfulness, facing reality, braving conflict. In some cases that's outer conflict, but in other cases it's inner conflict. And I was very grateful that those practices worked, and they got me through everything that I was going through, to the point where I can't honestly say it was psychological suffering, because it wasn't. I'd say if anything, my everyday experience has more suffering than my experience in the recovery period. So lots of lessons on that. I will be sharing more about that at some point in the next year. It's just become something I'm reflecting on, but that's all I'm going to share today on it. The other thing I wanted to share about was this channel. So this downtime that I've had, I've really I've stayed away from doing anything that feels like conventionally worky for the most part. I've done a bit of work here and there on some things that I have in the pipeline for this, but for the most part, I've just said the moment it starts to feel like heavy work or taxing work, I've just been backing off, which has been an interesting practice, because I've been able to get more done than I thought I would have gotten done, but I also haven't pushed a great deal in areas where I could sense that it was just too much to ask of my body or mind while I was recovering. That said, I've been doing a lot of inner work and dreaming about what I want my work on this channel to be, and my work in the field of conscious leadership. more broadly. Conscious leadership is sort of like a catch-all phrase I'm using to talk about the work that's going to happen on this channel, but people have different understandings of the term leader and the concept of leadership. But I suspect if you're concerned about the state of the world, if you recognize this moment, I suspect that what we're going to do on this channel together will be interesting to you if some of the things I'm going to mention now kind of like, if you check the box next to them. So if you're concerned about the state of the world and you see this moment as in time, moment in human history as a pretty pivotal one, if you recognize that like, wow, what happens in the next decade or so in any number of contexts is going to have real far-reaching influences going forward. That this moment is sort of like a culmination of the old world mentalities, philosophies, the old narratives that have like really carried us far as a species. If you see the sort of moment we're in now is kind of this like space between stories. I've heard that this moment described as that, and that resonates a lot with me. If you recognize that that's part of what's happening right now, if you recognize that at like the inner level, there's a call for you personally to step up or step into something that feels both necessary and unfamiliar, like new territory. If you feel called to either move in a new direction or adopt a new mindset or a new approach to the direction you're already moving in. If you feel called to really embrace something that perhaps not everybody around you is embracing. I think conscious leadership is, part of it is about collaborating, and part of it is about learning to work with whomever is around you, with whomever is in your context, because they're part of reality, they're part of the whole, and if they're near you and if they're with you especially, then I think there's a degree of acceptance that those are your people, that those are who you are with, that those are who you're matched to at the moment, and learning to work with the people that are active in your context, that are in relationship with you. Relationship is another big one. If you're sort of recognizing that like, wow, all human interaction is like, it's all leadership and all progress, if you use that word to describe the evolution of the species. I like evolution a bit better than progress, because progress carries some baggage from the past. But if you recognize that like relationships are really like at the core, like interpersonal work, what we say to one another, how we communicate to one another really is like, that's the essence of what I can contribute to you and what you can contribute to me, and how we can affect each other, and how we can have a reciprocal relationship, or how we can have a symbiotic relationship, to use a more evolutionary and more ecological term. So these are the kinds of, I'm just riffing here, but these are the kinds of questions that I'm exploring. These are the kinds of topics that I'm going to be exploring on this channel. My context prior to doing this work independently was I worked in nonprofit organizations. I worked in the field of political education and democratic advocacy, democratic reform, democratic evolution. Worked on a lot of projects related to how do we get better public leadership? How do we get better leadership for the common good, for the public good? Where I'm from, here in Nova Scotia and Canada. And this work that I intend to do on this channel really, to me, is the natural evolution of that exploration for me. Well, it comes down to questions about how are we tending to our minds? How are we using our awareness in our everyday contexts? And also zooming out frequently enough to understand and connect with what's happening at the level of the species, what's happening at the level of the planet. So if that resonates with you, then that's what we're going to explore here. And I think you should stick around. I wish you well on your journey, and I will see you in the next one.